We need it. Like oxygen. Why we breathe it. Like water. Like
Hi, everyone. Loralyn here with Like a Boss podcast. And today we've got a special guest. We've got Laura Mignott. A little bit more about Laura. She's also a guest lecturer at NYU, and she's founded the company D-Flash over a decade ago, which in itself is a huge milestone because such a small portion of companies make that 10 years. So congratulations, Laura, and welcome to our show.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lauren, for having me. It's nice to be on this side of the mic.
Well, that's just it. You're a podcast pro too. So maybe we're going to get some tips and ask for it at the end of this to give not only me advice, but, give our other listeners who aspire to start their own podcasts and advice. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, let's dive right in. So you're in the thick of things right here in Lower Manhattan.
Well, it's interesting. It has evolved, but it's always been the same experience. I wanted to create events that I wanted to go to and take away all the things that I didn't like about events that I went to when they were boring or they sucked. So I kind of broke it down into a really simple idea. When I walk through the doors, I want someone to welcome me and make me know that they're happy to see me, that I'm glad that I decided of all the things I could go to come to this thing. And then when I'm in the experience, I want to feel comfortable, like I'm at home. And it's funny now that here we are about 3 months into this very unusual time, that ability, has kind of gone away. And so, we're helping companies now figure out how to virtually mimic some of those live experiences that make you feel welcome and at home in an experience.
Can you comment at all on how you're trying to achieve that? Maybe give us one example.
Yeah, one example, we just did this for a conference that we're building, and we're going to be mailing out the swag. And we're doing not like a Corona survival kit, but your home have some snacks kit. So basically we're doing the lanyard from the conference. We're doing this kind of neat little box, and inside is sugar fina gummy bears, other candies, and a fidget spinner. Because again, we want, these are kind of fun and light and airy, but also some of the things you might get at a regular conference as we walk through the doors. But the idea is that you don't know this is coming. So you're going to get a nice surprise.
I love that. You're bringing the conference to the people and really trying to recreate the experience. That's excellent. I think that people are going to really look forward to that, attending that upcoming event. Now let's change gears a little bit and talk about your leadership. So clearly, founders that make it 10 years probably have some good leadership skills. What do you think yours are?
I think I always lead with empathy. I was always a shy kid, kind of awkward, stuttered, indoor child. And it kind of goes back to that same idea about making people feel welcome and making people understand that I can be in your shoes. It doesn't mean I'm a pushover by any stretch of the mean, but it does mean that being nice and being fair with people has always been my leadership style. I've always felt that you can get a lot more out of people if you can find some commonalities and build upon those versus I'm your boss, you must listen. It's much more let's have this open dialogue. Tell me what's up and let's see what we can do to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Dictatorship is not a leadership style that works well for most people or their employees.
No, it doesn't.
What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do?
This week, this month, this year?
Oh, maybe so. Yeah. Okay.
I think the hardest thing I had to do recently was tell my clients that there won't be events until 2021, spring, summer. And for me, that was saying goodbye to hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue and going to have to figure out a way to rejigger our company. But I couldn't lie and give them some sort of false hope.
And to your point, we were talking a little bit earlier, just at the start of the podcast, about empathy and having that understanding and awareness that some guests, I don't know what portion of them, coming into these events are going to have discomfort with it. They may have already been historically germophobic, or they may be immunocompromised in some way, where they're going to be concerned about the risk of exposure. So there's a whole angle of, I think, mental health that you're having to prepare for now too, correct?
Absolutely. Listen, I have staffers who are immunocompromised. I have staffers who've had, mental health challenges. And so I just looked at my staff and I'm like, how am I going to do this? So when you think about this going forward, the way the world is going to work is that think smaller, think ground floor, lots of windows and open space, because people are going to have PTSD around this. And I think honestly saying that, to say that this hasn't left you in some way, shape, or form shaken or shook or just feeling a little bit off, is to be intellectually dishonest. Because everyone's had that. Like, this is a very scary time. And acknowledging this is scary, and acknowledging the idea of kind of walking into a room with a bunch of people I don't know. You know, when I think of, like, you know, I had a milestone birthday in February, and I had a huge party because obviously, you know, I do events for a living.
Yeah, that's what you do.
And there was like 60 people there, and that was in late February before us all blew up. And the thought of that being in a room with 60 people crowded in a small space right now freaks me out, because I'm like, what? I don't think I want to do that. And I do this for a living.
I can definitely see the need for that as someone who, before COVID, used to attend 2 to 3 conferences per week. And going to these conferences, talking to all kinds of people and being trapped in these rooms day in, day out, it wears on you. And the idea of it now just makes me shudder. I don't want to be there.
Exactly.
But how do I do what I do, right? That's the thing, these jobs that we've got to do. When I ask the question, this always gives people a lot of opportunity for pause. What do you wish people did more of, Laura, or less of?
I wish people connected more, not for the sake of I want to sell you something, but I want to build a relationship. It's part of the reason I created the course, The 1 Degree of Connection, because there's this weird stigma around networking as being this evil thing. And especially in this very unusual time during COVID, connecting with people means so much more. It's a moral imperative at this point, because we actually have to understand that we do need each other. We do need relationships. And again, it's not about like, I want to be your best friend, but reaching out to people you haven't talked to in a while and just seeing how they're doing. You know, asking them, what did you find on Netflix? Have you seen Tiger King? Did you watch Real Housewives? Because I think, as I said, this time is very challenging for us all. And the ability to be good to people and remembering to be good to people is the only way we're going to get through this.
If I gave you a magic wand and said, Laura, you got to change one thing from your past, what would you change?
Wow. Nothing.
What's interesting is I've had several guests who have said nothing. And I think that's always so refreshing. No one has regrets. It's like, that's it. I learned from what happened. Onward.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As I said, shy, nerdy kid, who was an indoor kid who got picked on. I have a funny last name no one knows how to pronounce. Imagine going to school with that last name and this kind of funky voice who stutters. Lots of things happened that were not the most enjoyable. However, I don't think I would be the person I am today had I not gone through that, had I not experienced that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The person who feels really awkward builds the thing that makes people feel welcome. I don't think that happens if I'm a super awesome kid who's everyone loves when I'm 12. So, I think, you don't lose, you learn.
I love that. You don't lose, you learn. I'm going to use that as your promotional quote. It's great. I'm going to snag that one. Now, with respect to D-Flash, what do you want people to know about it?
We are open for business. I think a lot of folks have freaked out because we're an events business, or they think that we're only an events business, and that, we're going to be on pause until we're able to do live events again. And that's not the case. One, we are building out events for 2021 spring, summer, because we are fully confident that things will get better. We are building virtual events for clients, but again, using our same mantra of welcome home, but let's converting that to virtual. We're also a marketing agency, which is actually how we got our real start. So we're consulting with brands and helping them figure out culture in this very unusual time. And we've got a couple of custom programs and products that we've launched as a result of because of COVID, so that we can kind of get more in front of some brands. And we're here to help. We're known of having the golden Rolodex and connecting people who should talk to each other. That's not going away. So if we can be helpful, reach out.
All right. Now, since you are a podcast pro and you're involved with so many different groups and companies through more than a decade in business, perhaps you could share some tips for podcasting and for the next generation of women.
Sure. So podcasting, if you have something that you want to talk about, go ahead and do your podcast. There is no better time to start. The tools to get started are free. I use Anchor.fm as my podcast host. I use GarageBand and Zoom to record my podcast. I record most of everything on my Mac with a pretty simple mic, but have a point of view and, just do it. I created the Reset podcast because I was tired of hearing business podcasts from guys talking about how they were crushing it. And I'm like, that's not how business works. I know plenty of women in business that is not how this works. So let me give a voice to those folks. And so I wanted people to come and give their honest stories of their business journey. And for female leaders, please show up and show out. Tell people what you do. Brag on yourself. No one is a mind reader, and if you don't tell people how awesome you are, we're never going to know. Say that with conviction and fire, and that'll lead the way.
Oh, I love that. That's a whole part of the impetus behind my podcast as well, is to, put that spotlight on these women who are so meek or maybe uncomfortable telling about the awesome things they've done. I mean, just the guests that I've had on, the successes, it's phenomenal.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, come on, ladies, shout it from the rooftop, because lots of dudes who are 1/100th of you are telling everybody how awesome they are, and they're the ones getting through because people hear their voice.
Very few. You're in very, very small company. So congratulations again on that.
Thank
Now,
you.
as we're pushing toward the end of our podcast here, so Laura, how can our audience help you?
Well, 1, subscribe to the Reset podcast. 2, would love if you would check out my online course, The 1 Degree of Connection, and I'll give you the information in the show notes. And anyone who's listening from like a boss, I'll get a 10% discount code, so you can try it out. And 3, like I said, I'm always looking to connect with great people. My DMs are open on all social channels, and I'm always looking to make new friends because, makes the world a better place. So feel free to reach out.
Last question. Now, of course, Laura, this is the most important one. So if your shoe style was your personality, would you be a boots, stilettos, sneakers, flats, or flip-flops kind of gal?
So here's the thing about this question. I was trying to think about which one it is, and it's a tie. So I'm going to say 2. I really like really cool, expensive sneakers that don't look like sneakers, and I love a great pair of Louboutins. So I would say that if you combine the 2, I am a Louboutin sneaker because it's classic, spicy, and always red, because I always wear red.
Oh, okay. Well, I love it. That's fantastic. That's what our guests needed to know. Any other parting comments, Laura, before we wrap up our podcast?
I would just wish for everyone to be well and safe. This is and give yourself a break. Give yourself some grace. You don't have to write that great novel and finish every project, learn a new language, lose 50 pounds during this time. It's not easy. Acknowledge it's not easy, and that you don't have to do everything in 5 minutes. Just give yourself a break. And if that means watching Netflix all day, have a day where just watch Netflix. There are no rules right now. All you can do is take care of yourself the best that you possibly can. So I hope that you do.
Thank you so much, Laura. Really appreciate your time and insights.
Thank you, Loralyn. This is great.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?